like the 17-year-old Ronnie Simpson, destined to win a European Cup winners' medal with Celtic in 1967. In 1945, Moscow Dynamo came to Ibrox. The Rangers fans must have wondered what the game was when they saw the man they called Tiger Shaw with a bouquet of flowers, as if he was a ballet dancer. The surprises weren't restricted to events before the game. Rangers won the toss, but that didn't mean that they would have the only say in which way the game would be played. It didn't take long to puncture some cherished Scottish assumptions. Moscow Dynamo had the ball past Jerry Dawson in 2 minutes. The game was memorable not only as a fiercely contested football match. It was also a lesson in group therapy. Scotland was being encouraged to face the realities of modern football. It was going to struggle just to hold its own against the countries of Europe and elsewhere.
A foul by the Dynamo skipper.
Rangers earned a draw, helped by a George Young penalty goal. But the real result was the warning that the times were changing. But some things didn't change. Scotland still loved to beat the English, especially on their own midden. Billy Steele. The names fixed in the memory of the Scottish fans often engraved themselves there at Wembley.
Presently, a perfect centre by Waddle gave Riley the chance to use his head.
Willie Waddle, Laurie Riley. England 1, Scotland 3. Remember 1949. 1951 was another year to be talked about, long afterwards in Wembley football specials returning from less happy encounters.
Here's Billy Steele starting a Scottish attack. The Dundee man passes inside to Johnston, but the Hibs wonder boy is beaten by Williams, who clears. Eight minutes later and Scotland pressing. Waddle passes to Evans but kicks forward. Over comes a Riley cross and Johnston slams in the equaliser.
Perhaps the cameraman was English and couldn't bear to look all the time at what was happening on the park.
From a nice movement between Little and Steele, Steele runs on and passes. Riley bursts through and shoots.
Like any supporters, Scottish fans love winners. But their heroes are those who win with individual flair and style. The 60s produced an impressive crop of Scottish players. In the 6-1 demolition of Norway in 1963, the strength in the team was formidable. Dave Mackay, Jim Baxter, Willie Henderson, John White. And among them was one of the greatest names in the history of Scottish football. He had vision. He had the ability to time his running perfectly. He knew where to be while the play was away from him. Like a good hitman, he could wait as long as it took for his moment to arrive. And he had the reflexes of a mongoose. Denis Law has said that his game depended on the ability to live off scraps. But from such scraps, he provided a feast of goals for his fans.
Law, a great goal. Beautiful goal by Law.
Jimmy Murphy, when he was assistant to Matt at Old Trafford, said to me once, he said, if you had to send a man out to score a goal to save your life, there's only one man you send out. He said, you send the Law man. And you know, it's easy to understand what he means. You know, you'd see 5 boots flailing at the ball, and then that blonde head would come in, and that would be it.
Muir is up. So to his Sadler. And it's a goal! Law scored! What an incredible turnaround!
Denis Law, well, the abrasive, aggressive Denis, possibly the great striker, struck like a cobra.
Law! Oh, yes!
Law, at 15, was just like a little whippet. You know, and when he got the hair, he shook it as well, you know. That's how he played football. Played to win, but he'd everything. You know, eyes in the back of his head like Finney had, and guts and ability and determination. He had the lot.
When all these gifts were primed by the good service from other players that a striker needs, the result would be explosive.
I never really thought about being a player. You know, it was just a fortnight, you know, to go down and sort of be with a professional club, but never ever thought of it. But down there I went, very homesick, you know, because Huddersfield from Aberdeen was a long way. I think it was 13 hours in the train. I've never been up Scotland in my life. You know, I enjoyed it, you know. And then they must have said, well, the boy looks as though he's got something, you know. And obviously invited me to go back and stay down there, which was a big wrench, you know. I was only 15. Because I wanted to be an architect, you know. I mean, I really did. What are you laughing for? I mean, I really did.
The boy certainly did have something, and the face suggests he knew it. It didn't take long for those who understood the game to know it too.
I brought him in the Scottish side for the first time as a boy, 17-year-old. And I wanted the boy itself, but at that time we had this tremendous side of the young lads who were destroyed, lads at that age. And he was at Huddersfield prior to going to Manchester City. And I was kind of, but I'd know I'd the Dennis Violet, I'd the Billy Whelan, I'd the Tommy Taylor, all these people who were, sadly, some of them killed in the crash. And I hadn't any space. I had so many players, so many young players, so I had to give it up. I had to give the idea of Dennis Law up. Fancy I give the idea of Dennis Law up.
But other people were interested, not just in Britain. After a spell with Manchester City, Dennis Law went to the Italian team Torino, along with his friend Joe Baker.
When we lined up the first game, and we just looked at the opposition, you know, and you could see the guy go, right, that's one. That's not so bad. But then when there's two of them onto Joe, and two of them onto me. And of course our team played the same way as well. You know, we put, it was rubbish. It really was rubbish. And that was unfortunate, because everything else was great about it. Training was great. The training was fantastic. That was how they should train, you know, with the ball and learning your skills and improving your skills. But actually, when they went on the park, it was disaster to get beat. Nobody wanted to get beat. Nobody wanted to concede a goal. Big crowds, but they saw some awful games. We were in the quarterfinals against Napoli. And if we beat them, we go and we have to play in Rome. Scotland were playing Uruguay at Hampden. And I said to the manager, if I'm selected, I want to play for Scotland against Uruguay at Hampden Park. And they said, well, you know, if we win, you can't go. So I thought, right. So, I mean, I went there. I'm not saying I didn't try, because you know, for a professional player, you could never say that. But, you know, anyway, halfway sort of through the game, if I remember, I got pulled off and banned from the club for a fortnight. And in fact, I never ever played for Torino again. You know, never ever went back onto the ground. And met some of the directors, you know, and I was banned from the ground completely. And they said, if you don't, you know, at that time, you know, Juventus had come along, you know, and if you said, well, if you don't go, you know, we'll ban you from world football. So I thought, well, the money then was something like 120,000. Thought, well, no matter how rich the club are, you know, nobody could sort of miss that money. So I did a terrible thing. I've apologized to Joe Baker a million times since. But one morning, I got up, and Joe had gone training. I was still banned. And I thought, got in a taxi. I drove to Milan, because there was no flight from Turin then. And I flew home, never to go back. Joe, I mean, how can you do that to your pal, you know? But I was so desperate. I didn't want to be there, you know. I wanted to go home, and I wanted to come back to a place where I could play football.
The quality of his talent guaranteed that his future wouldn't be uncertain for long. This time, Matt Busby had room for him, and he became a central part of the great Manchester United team of the 60s.
Dennis Law running beautifully. Dennis Law there, and the ball is still there. It's free. Dennis Law, and he's scored! Into Perrin, and the defenders deciding to come up and joining in an attack. Law to Morgan. Law, and a goal!
The great thing about Dennis being a great player, he was a great character. I remember playing one day here, and the referee the linesman had been at Dennis quite a few times and pulled him up for offside. So there was one situation arose in the halfway line, I can't remember who got the ball, and played it forward, and Dennis done that, and the referee the linesman put his flag up, but Dennis didn't move. The place was in an uproar. The linesman was trying to read ahead of his time that Dennis was going to be offside, but Dennis just done that and never moved. The place was in tatters, it was.
Hey, he could dig on the pitch as well, don't kid yourself about that. Dennis wouldn't think twice about giving you on there.
Played against Dennis Law, who was... I mean, he once kicked me at Wembley. in front of the Queen. I mean, no man is entitled to do that, are you, really?
I remember Dennis